Hi, I'm Angel. I'm the admin of the Geekiary. You might know me from articles like Potential Coronavirus Geek Convention Impacts, Coronavirus Convention Disruption News, even more Coronavirus Convention Disruption News. You get the idea. I've written over a dozen articles on this topic, so I figured I would now make a video. Today's video is going to basically be about convention safety during the coronavirus, COVID-19 specifically, outbreak. I'm going to keep accidentally referring to it as the coronavirus, even though there are several coronaviruses out there, specifically because that's the one that's kind of the big deal right now, COVID-19. So whenever I reference that, that's specifically what I'm talking about. For each piece of information that I provide in this video, I will be telling you where I got it from and sourcing it. I am not a scientist, but a lot of the sources that I'm pulling from are scientists or groups that actually, have some weight when they give advice. Today, the day I'm making the video, is March 7th of 2020, but I want this video to be evergreen and to last however many weeks or months that this outbreak happens to last. So I'm going to spend very little time on convention news, because by the time you watch this video, these conventions might be over. But this weekend, we have a lot of conventions happening and a lot of conventions canceled. Salute to Supernatural in Vegas is happening with a touch-free policy. FogCon is happening in Walnut Creek, California. One of their headliners had to drop out. Paris Manga was completely canceled because all large gatherings in France have been basically banned. Anime Festival in Sydney, Australia had a lot of Japanese guests drop out. Next week, London Book Fair canceled. AllCon in Dallas still happening, surprisingly. We'll see how that goes. Emerald City Comic Con canceled, or postponed rather, until the summer. We'll see when that happens. South by Southwest canceled. Game Developers Conference canceled. The following weekend, March 20th, Ace Comic Con still happening, but with social distancing measures, which I'll explain what that means. Anime Japan in Tokyo canceled. F8 conference in April canceled, and then the other ones I'm keeping eyes on are more in April, May, June. Those could change. I have a post to keep all of the ones I'm tracking on the website. So if you go to thegeekiary.com, under the drop down, you can see the list of conventions I'm currently tracking and see if yours is on it. If it's not, drop me a line. I will add it and keep an eye on it and keep up on all the news. So now the actual safety portion of the video. The very first thing, the first safety measure, is social distancing. If you are feeling sick, do not go to the convention. If you are coming from a hotspot area or going to a hotspot area, like Washington State, the Bay Area, New York now apparently, don't go. But the problem with that is that it's probably in a lot more communities that we don't know about. As of yesterday, March 6th, only 1,895 tests had been done, and that is from an article I read in The Atlantic, so if you want the source on that, that's where that came from. According to Vice President Mike Pence, there's going to be 1 million tests sent out last week, but I don't know what the capacity of that's going to be. My state, Hawaii, can apparently do 250 tests a week. Right now they've only done 8, one of which came back positive. So you may be in a hot spot and you don't know it. And I don't say that to be alarmist, but it's the facts. So don't go. It's number one. But if you're planning on not going, that's it. Congratulations. But if you want to go, also, if you're not going or considering not going, I would call your airlines and hotels and ask about their policies, because there's so many different companies out there. I have no idea what each one's doing, so make that phone call, see what's going on. But if you must go because you can't get a refund, you can't rebook or something like that, practice social distancing in other ways. For example, go to the exhibit hall only during non-peak hours, like the middle of the day. is really popular. If you go there in the morning, maybe there won't be as many people. Avoid large panel rooms, or if you're going into a large panel room, sit kind of further away from the crowd. Maybe even go back to your hotel room to go to the bathroom. I mean, that might sound extreme, but social distancing. Keep distance from people. First safety tip outside of social distancing is masks. The CDC does not currently recommend masks for healthy people. They think that they should be reserved for medical staff and those for caring for at-risk populations. Now, social media chatter says that this could be pushed by the CDC because people are primarily using them incorrectly. So no solid source on that one, social media chatter primarily. However, I do have a source on this next bit. I got it from a time.com article. Some of the doctors cited in that article, say the droplets are too small and they go through the masks, making the masks useless. However, governments in China, Hong Kong, South Korea do recommend masks and believe that they are effective. So which is the truth? I'm not sure. And I am not a scientist. I do not have a mask because they are sold out here, not because I'm actually taking a stance. Next up, hand sanitizer. Very, very useful. There was a Twitter thread going around saying that it wasn't useful. That Twitter thread was incorrect and has since been deleted. So if you retweeted it and are like, hand sanitizer is useless, it was wrong and it's gone now. So hand sanitizer, very useful. This is in short supply in most places. And if you do find it, you want to make sure that it is 60% alcohol or above. Lower than that might not actually have any impact on COVID specifically. A lot of conventions have been putting out hand sanitizer for their guests. So if you can't find any before you go to the con, ask convention staff, see if they happen to have any available out in public. Now here's some other wipes. These are, and I'm going to butcher this because I'm not a scientist, benzalkonium chloride wipes. Notice no alcohol, which means that these might not necessarily be effective against COVID-19, against the coronavirus. So if you're specifically trying to do that, maybe these are not the ones you want to go for. However, they're not completely useless. They do have an impact based on some other diseases, and I've been using them kind of as a buffer between my hand and like surfaces, like doorknobs or whatever, or just generally wiping off stuff. This is a quote from compoundchem.com. It has some effectivity against bacteria and limited activity against viruses. It's also slow to act, meaning that non-alcohol-based sanitizers are generally less effective than alcohol-based ones. So there's that. Keep an eye out for the ingredients. Try to get the alcohol ones if you can. If you can't get them, they're not entirely useless, but maybe not specifically for the COVID outbreak. Washing your hands, the most important thing. Now, my hope is that conventions turn into this cacophony of people singing geeky songs or citing geeky stuff in the bathrooms. So here are a few songs that are 20 seconds about. For Star Wars fans, the Imperial March is 20 seconds, so wash your hands while humming that loudly and proudly. An alternative Star Wars option is Weird Al's Saga Begins. The main chorus of that is about 20 seconds. For Star Trek fans, the Space, the Final Frontier, that whole speech, also about 20 seconds. Lord of the Rings fans, or Leonard Nimoy fans, or Bilbo Baggins fans, you can see where I'm going with this. Leonard Nimoy's Bilbo Baggins song, main course of that, about 20 seconds. For all you meme lords out there, never gonna give you up, never gonna, yeah, I'm not gonna rickroll you, but you know where I'm going with that. Sing that, rickroll your fellow bathroom friends. For otaku, the Evangelion opening, that nice, calm, beautiful opening, and then when the beat drops right until the lyrics start, that whole section is about 22 seconds long. You're going to want to go wash your hands and sing these songs loudly and proudly at the convention, after sneezing or coughing, blowing your nose, after using the bathroom, and before eating. Lysol. This one's harder to get on a plane. I don't think you're actually allowed to fly with it. If you're driving, maybe you can bring this, spray your hotel room door or whatever. But for most people, the wipes are going to be the most useful ones. You are going to want to clean off every surface that you have control over. So the doorknobs to your hotel rooms, your debit cards, try not to use cash if possible. Those are going to carry the germs. Handles to things like your luggage when you're traveling, you're going to want to wipe that down. Wipe down your seat on airplanes. Wipe down your chair in the panel rooms. If you're running a booth, wipe down your booth regularly. Wipe down everything that's touched by a lot of people that's within your control, basically. And if there's a surface that's not in your control, and you have to touch it, like a door to a room for a panel or something, that's when you're going to want to use those aforementioned hand sanitizing tips with the alcohol-based sanitizer. So if you have control, wipe that crap down. If you don't, wash off your hands. Now, what to do if you start to feel symptomatic at a convention? I know this is going to be hard to hear because you're at a con, you're having fun, you don't want to leave the fun, you spent a lot of money to be there, but please, if you're feeling symptomatic, isolate yourself as soon as possible. Go back to your hotel room. If you have roommates, warn them that you do not feel well so that you guys can take precautions and they don't walk in to a coronavirus infested room. Please be courteous. If you can't isolate yourself, like let's say your hotel room is super far away from the convention center, or you drove in just for the convention and you have to drive all the way back. If you can't isolate yourself, take basic precautions like covering your cough and sneezes into a tissue or into your elbow. Wash your hands more often. Throw the tissues away. Keep your germs to yourself as much as you possibly can. Now, if you're not feeling well and you start to have the symptoms that resemble COVID-19, the coronavirus, call a doctor first before you just show up in their office. If you're traveling outside of your state, a lot of insurance might have specific precautions for this, like you need to know what network your insurance handles outside the state, so call them first or go to their website, see how they handle out-of-state emergencies, and find doctors in that area before even going to the convention. That way you're not scrambling to take care of your health while you're there and have no idea what you're doing. So just write down some doctors that would take your insurance outside of your state, and if you start to not feel well, call them first. Now, I keep mentioning symptoms. If you're symptomatic, blah, 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 what are those symptoms? A fever. In most cases, above 100.4, but that can vary. Some people run a little cold, so maybe even less than that. A dry cough and shortness of breath. This is a respiratory illness. So if you're having trouble breathing and you start to cough and you have a fever, those are the symptoms you're going to want to watch out for. Those are the symptoms that if you're feeling them at a convention, you're going to want to isolate yourself. If you're feeling them before you go to the convention, you might want to consider not going. If someone around you at a convention is exhibiting these symptoms, Lysol, hand sanitize, social isolate, and stay away. This whole video might sound rather paranoid, and that could very well be the case, but I would rather play it safe and give you guys all this advice and make sure that you guys take precautions to prevent the spread of this as we head into the convention season. Please keep yourself safe, keep yourself healthy, and if I am being paranoid and overreacting, at the very least we're cutting down on typical con crud, which is always great. So, be safe and clean and enjoy the convention season.